it's about time we talk to some producers and find out what some of the opportunities and challenges are on that end. You know, the folks we're going to be meeting with today raise animals in different ways, but there's a lot of similarities, but all with the same goal of providing a great product for us. And that comes with a belief that they're doing the right thing and moving the needle in the right direction. Because it's certainly, when you talk to farmers and producers, it is easy to go to the auction. It's not easy to finish a steer and bring it to the market and try to find a buyer for it. You know, when we embarked on our program, one of the things that we realized, we thought we were going into a direct buying program. One of the things we realized is that as we met farmers and as we visited their communities and got to know them, that every purchase we make, every dollar we make is benefiting their community. And that's a big deal. It's not feeding stakeholders or stockholders. Not that that's a bad thing, but in this case, when you're buying food for your restaurant or your facility, it's nice to know that the dollars you're spending are going right to families who are growing it and to communities that are trying to develop agriculture in this you know, new way, or you know, resuscitating an old way. So that's one of the things we talk about. And as I meet with chefs and restaurateurs, we talk about telling the story. So one of the things we'd like to do to start off here is for you all to introduce your farms and yourselves and tell a little bit about the story of how you got there and why you're doing what you're doing. So maybe we'll start over here with Brantley and move our way down the panel.
All right, thanks, Orrin. My name's Brantley Ivy. I'm a general manager of River Ridge Land and Cattle Company in Southwest Virginia, and also a business partner with Grayson Natural Foods. Grayson Natural Foods was a company founded by 4 farmers about 5 years ago. Through their involvement in a local nonprofit organization that was supposed to promote land stewardship. From that group, there was a livestock committee that was formed. The livestock committee then, in turn, in their meetings, decided that they were tired of taking less for their beef, for their cattle. We felt like we do it right, and we're tired of being dictated what our product is worth when we think that it's better than what you can buy at the grocery store, we thought. So we embarked on direct marketing our own beef. Nobody in the group knew anything about marketing. The funny thing is, our first sales trip, we went to a restaurant and said, "Would you be interested in some local grass-fed beef?" They said, "Yeah, give me a price list and your delivery schedule." Well, we'll come talk to you again in a couple of years. A lot of the challenges that we had is most cattle farms are set up to be the most efficient, most productive, and get the highest dollar for their cattle within the current commodity system, which is essentially have a breeding season that is as tight as it can possibly be, raise these animals the exact same for 8 to 10 months, and sell a semi-load on the open commodity system. That's where you get your biggest premium in the current cattle business. It works when the prices are good, like they are this year. When somebody changes their mind and the prices go down to 80 cents a pound, then the farmer's left holding the bag. So that's really what drove us to start our little Grayson Natural Foods company. We set the protocols. We went through the process of being third-party certified, source and age verified. We heard that the population was saying we want our animals raised properly, we want to know where they come from, and we want them to be traceable. We sat down, changed our entire farming practices to fit that method in hopes that there would be a market for it once we got it established. We're still in the process of trying to increase our markets. Fortunately, about 3 years ago, we came to D.C. and we met Orrin, and we raise our product where there is no population, so we have to bring it to the population to get our revenue. So that's how we got in the mix.
Great.
My name is Patty Wisnant. I My husband and I own Rain Crow Ranch, which is in the southern, Ozarks. We, at Rain Crow, we grow American grass-fed beef. We began probably 12 years ago, and we believe passionately in that whole system where you have I like to refer to it as a solar-based system, the management of which is better for the product, better for a healthier and safer beef, better for the animals, but also better for the land, and certainly better for the family farms in which you usually find it raised. We began back when we did not have a local market. This was probably 12 to 15 years ago, and at that time there weren't even, at least in our part of the country, the farmers markets and that niche were not even available. So we would sell a little locally, but our local market was not a grass-fed market. So we started out with a website. We did, through Andrew and some others, we began to sell to Whole Foods. Today we sell our product to restaurants directly. We still have some chain business that we deal with. We have, it's a family operation. It is a family farm. We have expanded today where we have some outside producers that are essentially our neighbors. We have, my husband and I, we have 6 children, and they're all involved in the process somewhere along the way. As I began to listen to the discussion of sustainability and talking about how that term has been used and defined in numerous different ways, I always thought of sustainability in my own personal way as being, we have rough hills in the Ozarks, so we select cattle that will grow well. People talk about what kind of breed do you raise? Well, the ones that do best on our land. That makes it, it's an idea of the whole sustainability. But it goes a lot further than that. It goes to, I'm a veterinarian by training, and as we go through pasture rotation, how you can get by, you don't need the antibiotics. You're rotating to fresh, clean pasture each time. So all of those go into a very complicated idea of what sustainability is. We live and work on this farm. So we do the utmost to take care of it. It's not someplace you go and you work and then you go back home. It is our home. It's where we work, where we play, and we care immensely about that environment. But when I think of what's sustainable, and somebody asked, tied in the profitability. Our kids were raised on this farm, and as homeschoolers, they grew up with a learning experience unlike any laboratory you could contrive. They learned to think, to solve problems. They learned to develop respect for the animals, for the environment, and how all of that worked together in the bigger world of agriculture. But sustainability to me was to have the development of this niche market, because we're still a very small part of the big beef world, was to make it to where that next generation could, if they wanted, come back and join that farming operation. They could come home to farm. To date, our 2 oldest boys have done that. The next one's in college, and think maybe there permanently, but he has the intention of coming back. And that's really sustainable when you have kids who have caught they understand the hard work of farming, but they also have captured the vision of where farm to the table can go. And so consequently, that to me is part of what makes it sustainable. As a rural community, for years we were losing our best and brightest resources, which were our kids who couldn't come back to the farm and maintain what they've been doing all their lives. So today, I think we're beginning to see that change. It's complicated from a producer's side. I'm very comfortable dealing with animals and talking to you about medically. On this journey, you have to learn. It's a learning curve the whole way from the farming side, and how you talk to chefs, how you talk to wholesale buyers, how you deal, just the computer issues, and on and on and on. And I would like to really say one thing that has helped this. I would love to say we had a gorgeous, or very smart, visionary business model that said, okay, this is where we're going to go. But in many ways, the demand for grass-fed kind of pulled us through to where we are today. And there are groups out there that helped create that bridge. Our own AGA, and Carrie Balkham's the executive director, Jim Slama with Family Farms. It's at an event in Chicago that we met Dan Rosenthal. And the AWA, certainly, those organizations, not unlike what you did with the Central Kitchen, they are creating a bridge between the farmers and the end user and trying to facilitate those rough roads, because we are difficult to work with, but so are they. Our processing plant starts at 7, ends at 3, and invariably you have that chef that calls up at 4:30 and says, I need this on the truck tomorrow. But it's been a great experience so far, and we are passing it on to that next generation.
That's great. David?
Hi there. My name's David Stevens, and I work for Ayrshire Farm in Loudoun County, Virginia. I came to Ayrshire through the kitchen. I have been in the restaurant business my entire life. I was lucky enough to get a job in the kitchen at Ayrshire, at the restaurant that Ayrshire Farm owns, and I come to this group at sort of what I think is a unique position, in that I am on all sides of the plate. We're talking about the state of the plate here. Not only am I that chef that makes that 4:30 or 4:45 call needing something now, I am a parent. I did all the cooking as the husband of a veterinarian. I did all of the cooking and the buying. I go to the farmer's market and I go to the grocery store. I know the challenges of buying it and finding it and getting to the farmer's market and being a member of the CSA, and I seem to be getting louder and louder. And then after working for several years in the kitchen for the restaurant, I moved over to the production, the outreach, and the sales side of the farm. So I have experienced all of the complications and the challenges from both sides of the plate. As I said, I have been the chef who needed that whatever it was at the last minute, and we too, just as you described when we first started out into the community, talking to chefs when we thought we wanted to take our product to other restaurants, because we were fortunate enough at our farm to have a restaurant and to have a butcher shop to sell our product. When we decided we wanted to go out into the world, the running joke for a while was we would go to the chefs and they'd say, "What do you have?" And we'd say, "Well, what do you want?" And they'd say, "Well, how much is it?" And we'd say, "Well, how much are you willing to pay for it?" You know, so we have, we raise heritage breed, organic and humane beef, poultry, and pork. So we've had the opportunity to touch on all of the problems that everyone has talked about here today. And whether or not that makes me an authority, I don't know, but I certainly can speak from experience that I know that that there's got to be a lot of give and take in every direction. And there isn't a perfect fit, and there isn't a perfect answer. I personally believe, we heard a lot about in months and a couple years past the problem with the mortgage banking and the problems with the finances of the nation, and everyone talked about it was too big to fail. And I really believe that the answer is that we need to be too small to fail. We need a diverse group of people meeting the needs of a diverse group of people, all doing it on a very small scale, so that when something goes wrong over here, we've got something over on the other side to back it up. That goes, in my opinion, all the way to large crops and monocrops and genetically modified. Every subject you can possibly think of, which is kind of scary in the food industry. I think that producers producing food at our level, which is medium to small, is the way out for us forever, I hope.
Thank you. And Gary, talk about your farm.
Thank you, Orrin. It's a pleasure to be with you all here today. Cannon Hill Farm is a biologically diverse, certified organic, certified humane operation located west of Interstate 81 at exit 273 in Mount Jackson, Virginia. Being an organic farmer requires commitment, dedication, patience, and a high regard for Mother Nature. We are in our 9th year of being certified organic and our 12th year of being herbicide, pesticide, synthetic fertilizer free. Because a farm is certified organic, there is no use of antibiotics, hormones, steroid, or other growth-enhancing stimulants. Our farm is on the short list of farms that has control of its animals from conception to consumption. Cannon Hill Farm is also a closed operation in the fact that it produces all the non-GMO crops that are required to raise and finish our animals. We specialize in raising the heritage breed of beef, the belted Galloway. This unusual and remarkable breed of cattle may be one of the oldest breeds of cattle known to man. The belted cow has 2 layers of hair, over 5,000 hair per square inch. This double coat of hair provides additional insulation against exposure to the elements. Therefore, they do not produce the extra fat that other cows do, and that is why their meat is lower in calories, fat calories, both saturated and fat, and lower in cholesterol. Many people ask the question, what makes good beef? The answer is in the word beef. The B stands for breed. The belted Galloway is a heritage breed. Smaller framed animals, the bulls weigh generally 1,200 pounds. They're gentle, they're active, they're prolific breeders. The cows average from 950 to 1,100 pounds. They're excellent mothers with plenty of milk. They're known for their longevity, of which they produce an extra calf or two over conventional cows. The steers will finish from 950 to 1,050 pounds. They usually yield 60 to 65% on the rail, and they produce a smaller cut of beef, which fits into the more healthy, active lifestyles that the American family is trying to achieve nowadays. And E is for environment. We provide plenty of clean pasture, clean water, shade, and shelter with humane treatment. We don't use four-wheelers. We work our cattle with horses, and we precondition our calves before we fence, line, wean. All of our cattle have access to barns year-round. They must come into these barns to feed. These barns are bedded with organic matter such as straw, wood chips, and leaves. This is how we generate our compost, which feeds the soil for next year's crops. Our cattle are trained to our voice. It's much easier and less stressful for the animal to come to me rather than to be chased. The other E is for efficiency. The belted Galloway are the most efficient breed of cattle I've ever experienced. The cattle have the natural ability to use low input pastures to produce calves, healthy calves, year after year. The steers have the natural ability to use low input forages to produce high quality beef. No corn is used in the finishing of our animals. And the F is for feed. Our feed consists of all non-GMO farm-raised forages and grains. In order to grow high-quality, nutrient-dense feed, you need a high-quality soil. Our soil is alive with earthworms, bugs, beneficial fungi, bacteria, all operating in harmony with one another, enabling the production of crops that are higher in protein than those of conventional farming. Whether grass-fed or grain-fed, the belted Galloway beef is fine-grained, well-marbled, ensuring tenderness and flavor. As our population becomes increasingly more health-conscious, the market for leaner, tender beef will always continue to grow. Early historians remarked how tender and sweet and juicy belted Galloway beef was. Had they been nutritionists, they would have also noted that the beef by nature is very tender, but it contains a lot less unwanted fat. Developing biological diversity in our fields, as well as maintaining and replenishing the soil's fertility, has enabled our family farm to be a sustainable and prosperous certified organic operation. Our reward comes to seeing healthy animals that have a special shine not seen in conventional animals, and when our customers return for the unique and special flavor of our belted Galloway beef. Thank you.
Well said. And it is good beef, I can attest to that. Maybe headed back towards Brantley and Patricia. As a buyer, I'm assaulted constantly with grass-fed beef, natural beef. What is grass-fed beef, and is it always the same? Is it fair to make a claim that one grass-fed beef is the same as another?
You would be the one to answer that. She actually has rules and guidelines. One thing we've talked about a bunch of different animals today, but cattle, 100% of the cattle industry in this nation is grass-fed up to a certain point, and then it goes into the grain, to the grain finishing segment of the cattle industry. So every cattle farm in the U.S. is utilizing grass to grow their cattle, especially in the cow-calf and stocker operations. It doesn't go into the grain finishing until the animal is, 1 year to 16 months old. So that's one thing that's different about the pork and the chicken that we were talking about earlier. 100% grass-fed animals, that's what we get out of, there's several places that do it in the U.S. Argentina, Brazil, some of our South American countries, it takes so long to get an animal finished to what is considered to be a quality standard here in the U.S. that, at least for us, I'm not speaking for everybody, we have hard winters. We have to supplement with grain. We do the haylage, the baleage. We put all the highest quality grasses up we can, but even in the dead of winter when there's nothing for them to eat except the stored feed, We know that an animal requires 12%, 14% protein and 68% TDN for us to be able to put weight on them in the wintertime. We test all of our forages. If our forages don't meet that, we can supplement grain up to 0.5% of their body weight on an as-fed daily basis, which is negligible for the most part. But we are not certified grass-fed. We're 100% pasture finish. We're 100% grass diet, or except for the wintertime when we have to meet that nutritive requirement.
The AGA came into existence in 2003 because the AMS, Agricultural Marketing Service, was going to publish a label for grass-fed that was an animal that was 80% of its life on grass. And of course, any animal in the U.S. out of every feedlot would fit into that category. So we worked back and forth, went back and forth, and the current definition, the legal definition today for a grass-fed label is that that animal is solely on forage for its entire life. It cannot be fed corn or corn byproducts. And yet, in our mind, and in the mind of the over 20,000 consumers that we got input to comment on that, they believe that it also was tied to a pasture-based system. Natural has absolutely no meaning at all. The legal definition is minimally processed, which, any raw beef would be minimally processed. They like to try to think about it being antibiotic and hormone-free, but that's not necessarily true. But a grass-fed has to be fed a forage diet, but you can feed it hormones. You can confine it. You can feed it antibiotics. So you could, by the legal USDA definition of grass-fed, you could take an animal, put it in a feedlot, substitute for the corn, harvested forage, feed it antibiotics and feed it hormones, and put a grass-fed label on it. Personally, I believe you are beginning or will be seeing that by the industrial meat community. However, that is why when that came in 2007 is when that actually went into practice. The AGA launched a certification program where our standards in a nutshell are that that animal has to be raised on open pasture, not in confinement, cannot be fed grain or grain byproducts, cannot be fed antibiotics or hormones and a forage diet. So it was a reaction to what the government had their labeling that we came about with certification programs that verify by third party that you are grass-fed or not.
Great.
Ornette, if I could just
Yeah.
follow up one thing, the USDA AMS has a listing of process verified programs for third-party verification, and there's 30-something of them. There's non-hormone treated cattle for the European Union, the Never Ever 3 program, the source and age verified, the grass-fed, which one do you certify? Which one do you spend your money to be third-party verified for the federal government standards? We qualify for almost every one of them, but we're not certified for any of them because our belief is, at least this is the way we've started and the way we are right now, that you certify. You come and look at it if you like it, and I know time is an issue. We'll show you everything we do. That's our certification process. We found that our word is much better than the federal government signing off on something to say that we are indeed what they say we are.
And I myself recommend that when we'll have producers who say, well, do I need to pay for this, this, and this certification? Well, the AGA partners with the AWA, and their audits as to the farm are actually free. And they will do both of those audits for you, which gives you that verification. And it all depends, in my opinion, all depends on the market you're going into. In other words, if you are, your customers, that end user comes to the farm, that's the best proof there is. But if you grow it to where you're going on a retail shelf and you want to be able to make claims on that label, then you've got to go into a verified program. Dan Rosenthal, one of the first questions I ever heard from him was, how do I know what they say is what it is? Right. The best way, yes, is for go to the farm. But some people can't. So there are certain avenues where the certification programs, our farm is USDA certified organic. That means all that does is tells my customer we use no antibiotics, no hormones, no artificial fertilizers, no pesticides, no herbicides. I don't label our beef that way. We are AGA certified grass-fed, and we are certified for welfare by the AWA.
Thank
It's
you.
confusing.
Well, let's talk about the next piece before when I was up here with Dan, we talked about cost. So, a lot of chefs and buyers realize that cost is a major issue. When you go to Whole Foods to buy your beef, it costs more. Let me ask, maybe to pose a question to David and Gary. So we pay more money for local pasture-based, pasture-raised beef. So you guys must be just filthy rich, right? And you must have hundreds of stockholders that you're distributing the money to, right? Why is beef more expensive? Where does the money actually go? And why is it more expensive than buying on the commodity market?
Well, Orrin, it takes a longer period of time to finish an animal on forages as opposed to the corn rations that commercial farms use. Over the years, we've experimented with different rations on our farm. Corn is only a cash crop on our farm. It's sold. My pencil isn't sharp enough that I can take the corn at the price we're paid and put it into cattle and make a profit. So we have to sell our corn. But we've experimented over the years with a different forage system that we plant a combination of crops that we mow and chop together in unison so that that animal gets a smorgasbord of nutrients, because every crop has its own palette of nutrients that animals need. We don't force feed our animals just one thing. We feed alfalfa, we feed sorghum, we feed millet, we feed a gamut of forages. Everything is grass-based. Now, corn has more energy but less protein than the small grains. The small grains have more protein, so therefore, being less energy, the cattle gain weight slower. But it is a higher quality meat. It's a finer textured meat. So by letting that animal gain weight at a slower rate rather than force feeding him steroids and growth stimulants, you get a much better beef. And no, we're not filthy rich. I answer to one stockholder, and that's my wife. So it's a family operation here, and when you're certified organic and you're certified humane, you open your entire farm up. It's an open book. It's like you're living in a fishbowl. Not only does the inspectors go through your records, they go through your livestock, they go through your farm, they even check your machinery for hydraulic leaks to make sure that there's no way you're harming the environment. And we're also in the watershed for the Chesapeake Bay, so we have the DEQ overseeing our operation. That's why we use a bed pack system in our barns, so that we don't pollute our streams that flows through our property. But even your neighbors who are not certified organic know enough of the regulations just to be dangerous, and they're just waiting for that opportunity to see something take place on your farm so that they can report you. So everything, you're just like a little fish going around in that fishbowl. Everybody gets a 360-degree look at what you're doing. But I wouldn't farm any other way. And that's why things have to be more expensive, because yes, the food supply in this country is cheap, but it's a false economics. If you get sick and the antibiotics the doctor gives you doesn't do you any good, or you need to have an extended prescription for antibiotics, if you would be eating healthier, building up your immune system, which organic products do because they don't have antibiotics in them, they're a more nutrient-dense crop and food. So you're actually taking the money that you would spend for antibiotics and doctors and things like that and putting it into your food. And we are what we eat. If we eat junk, we're going to be junk. So that's why organic food is a little more expensive.
Yeah, and I agree entirely. It is a false economy, and the true price of the food isn't really experienced at the cash register. There is no doubt that raising certified organic, certified humane, and certified predator-friendly animal costs the farmer more. It costs him more for feed. It costs him more for in time. Everything about it. But the return, not only to the consumer when you become what you eat, and I have become what I eat, the return to the environment, to the farm, to maintain that as a sustainable piece of property that can be farmed forever, not for just a short time, but for a long time. And I think that we're going to be needing to feed ourselves for many, many, many more years. And if we keep pulling everything off of the land and soaking it back with chemicals, pretty soon there's not going to be enough, there's nothing going to be land left to farm on. So as he said, and to sum up, the real price isn't paid at the cash register.
Well, we've only got a few minutes, so what I'd like to do is just ask each one of you to give me a couple sentences about what some of your biggest obstacles are right now in connecting with buyers, whether it's through a distributor or directly with a chef or a restaurateur. So just some things that we need to know about as buyers to maybe help facilitate the process on your end.
Some of the biggest challenges, I can't help it. I've got to answer that last question, why is it more expensive? The answer is because it's worth it. That's why grass-fed beef is more expensive. But the biggest challenges that we've faced is it's not been finding a customer base that is interested in buying the product, and it's not been adjusting our management to be able to supply that product on a year-round basis. We have the customers, we have the desire to grow it. Everybody wants to cut out the middleman, but the middleman serves a huge purpose, and he knows how to get it from where they're grown to the population. So establishing that middleman thing has been our biggest challenge, as well as finding proportionate customers with the ground beef and the steaks.
To a lot of our smaller farmers, a huge obstacle is absolutely dealing with whole carcass and how to come up with the appropriate use in their, end users to use a whole carcass. We've kind of overcome that obstacle as we have grown in the numbers we're able to produce and harvest at this point in time. But that's still a big obstacle for small farms. So also the idea of, I think the market has been driven by the culinary end, those people who have had the tenacity to find the product and to pull it through to where they can use it. At this point in time, that has been done very well. Our demand has put us where we are. So I think from the producer side today, at the level we produce it, supply is an issue. Being able to have enough ready to harvest beef.
I'd agree with both of you. Distribution has been a big problem for us. It's hard enough to farm it and find someone to buy it. Then you have to get it on a truck and get it there. Also, problem with the whole carcass. Everyone can sell steaks. Not everyone can sell roasts or even ground beef. And as you said, the chefs have driven this and pulled it through to a point, but there's still the problem with the consumer. We have a lot of chefs in the DC area are very excited about getting the belly. The first question, can we get pork belly? Yeah, yes, of course, and the jowl and the humane veal cheeks. And it was a big buzzword in the chef community for quite a while. But then, but you still can only serve someone this much pork belly. And there's quite a bit more on there. So getting the whole carcass used and getting the consumer to understand there's more to an animal to enjoy than just T-bones.
That's right. I think our biggest challenge in the organic beef industry is finding butchers who can process the entire carcass to a higher economic standard. Meat cutting in this country hasn't changed a whole lot in the last 30 years, and we have an excellent certified organic butcher shop within a few miles of our farm, but a little bit of the problem is they do a wonderful job if you take the entire carcass out for yourself and you want it for freezer beef. Well, that doesn't work in today's fast pace. Soccer moms do not have time to do roast. We used to go to Grandma's house for dinner, and there was this huge roast. Well, the soccer moms don't have time for doing roast anymore. We're in 3 and 4 generations removed from the farm, so that the butcher has to be more creative now to take the front shoulders, follow the muscle profiling, and be able to cut steakums, the petite, the ranch, and the flat iron steaks out of these front shoulders and give the producer a little more economic value for that beef, and also give the consumer what they want for this fast-paced world in which we live. And then packaging is the second thing. Packaging, it has to be appealing to the eye of the woman. If the woman buys it, the man has no choice but to eat it. So you have to appeal to the woman. And that's where I think we have a challenge. Thank you.
We were talking about this morning at breakfast, we were talking about what goes into making a quality beef eating experience. And on my side of the table, it has to do with the genetics, the kind of animal. It has to do with that chain of forages that allows for a constant rate of gain. I believe as we own our own processing plant, and I think it has to do with processing and how that meat is fabricated, finding the value in how that it is cut. But then the other side of the table is from the culinary side. And there are people who can cook that grass-fed product and it be the best eating experience you've ever had. And then there are other people who cook it conventionally and you're going to be disappointed. So I think the culinary side and learning how to handle grass-fed is part of part of the learning curve on the other side of the table.
I hear you. Well, thank you. That was very insightful.
Questions?
Hi, my name is Dana Hecht, Master of Public Policy candidate here at GW. And my question revolves around the fact that, so the reality is the U.S. population is eating too much meat right now, but it's poor quality meat because most of it is coming from CAFOs and not sustainable farming operations like yours. And the USDA is faced with a ton of incredible pressure from lobbyists who support livestock farmers. And so the USDA cannot advise the US public not to eat as much meat. They can't say eat less meat. They have to say eat more fruits and vegetables. And so I have two questions for you. My first is that if the USDA were able to say something like you should be eating less meat, would that potentially hurt your businesses and the businesses of other farming operations that are sustainable and small, like yours? And my second question is that, do you feel that the lobbyists that are here in DC are here to support your causes and farmers like you? Or are they here to support the CAFOs and the bigger, more powerful industrial farm factories?
I'm underqualified to answer that question.
Well, I can believe, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but a part of what went into the legal definition of grass-fed is because as a product, it had, just like organic, it has maintained higher pricing. So when that happens, it didn't go away, it wasn't a fad, so consequently, it's very much on the radar of your big ad, the industrial side of what we do. Whether there was lobbying to that effect, I don't know. Eating, I really do, in my opinion, I don't think it would affect what the consumption of our beef. We're at most 5% of the beef industry. Some people say we're 2%. The people who choose to go to the route of the type of beef we produce, I think have made a very conscious choice that that's what they want. The portions aren't as big, and you don't see the huge grass-fed steaks. You see the more, the little pictures you had of the filet with the petite, you see a lot more of that. So I don't think it's going to affect what we do because we're already in a little small niche over here. And people choose our product for various attributes that they believe in for a lot of reasons, but a lot of them are very philosophical reasons.
Yeah, I don't believe that if the USDA or the government said you should be eating less meat, it would have any effect on the people who are already eating our products because they're already eating less meat, but eating better meat. And the people who are consuming way too much meat, excuse me, meat in the form of a paper bag at a drive-through, they won't pay any attention anyway.
I'll answer, from our perspective, the lobbyists in Washington, D.C. are not doing anything for me because we don't have any lobbyists. Our lobbying efforts, we contact our own congressman, our own senator when we get a chance. How their lobbyists are working with USDA doesn't affect us simply because we've already chosen to go against the grain in a very mature industry. And I say mature because it's hard to get away from it and do it your own way. We don't look for the government for help to support us in funding our business, and we want them to stay out of our way when we're going direct to our customers to try to sell it.
So you heard it here first, it's okay to eat less meat, and a group of ranchers say so. Last question, please, and then we're going to go to a break.
I may be ambushed on the way out.
Hello, thank you very much. My name is Lisa Feldman. I'm with Whole Foods. We sell both kosher and non-kosher, 100% grass-fed meat. And I was just in contact with a mom who was dealing with a child with severe grain allergies. And she was fearful about the meat and whether the child had to have meat that was had no grain in the diet. And I was curious, it seemed like the definition of grass-fed varied, that there was, in some cases, grain in the animal's diet. And how would you answer that mom with a severe allergy child?
Well, in a way, I think that I hate know your farmer, but there are a lot of reasons for that. But that's true. If that farmer can come to one thing that's very refreshing about what we do and what we do with the end user is we're face to face with them. You don't go through a barrage of a huge company. And so if you ask that producer, is this the case? Then I think you're going to get a very honest answer. And we can trace our animals backwards and forwards from, birth to harvest. But I think a producer, one thing that it has done for us, we used to market our animals years ago conventionally. And when they left the front gate on a truck, you wave bye-bye, and that's the end of your commitment. But when you deal directly with your customers, that's a whole different story. We have moms that have autistic children, and they come to our beef for using food as kind of a nutraceutical, in other words, part of that whole treatment, cardiac patients. But when you deal with a customer, especially if they have a unique allergy problem or whatnot, what that does is it raises the bar of what you're doing. And the truthfulness, I don't know of a producer that would mislead a customer under that situation. So ask the source.
Or look for a certificate. But if your mum is that worried, she needs a third party to look at it. You can't just accept because it says on the label something. That label's completely accurate unless somebody qualified whose third party's actually had a look. And there's an interesting point. In the US, I'm not convinced that you can be genuinely grass-fed, i.e. growing grass, 52 weeks of the year anywhere. I think the diet you're alluding to is a forage-based diet where you might be using stored grasses. Because if it is pure grass-fed, then the chances are it has to come from Chile, Argentina, bits of Georgia and Florida. But Dan, please, and up and we
Yeah,
move to
and
break.
I guess the message there is, the producers that we work with and the producers that you can meet here today are not looking for subsidies, they're looking for customers. So, we just need to talk and make connections, and like Patricia said, they need to hear what you need and what you want, and they'll provide you with that. And then, it's a relationship, and that's really all it is, and that's why we're all here today.
Or if I could make just one more quick comment, and then I'll be quick. We've heard a lot of things today talking about factory farms and the bad guys, and I was talking with a couple other grass producers earlier. We're never going to get this movement going to solve the problems and issues that we have if we're concentrating on beating up the other side. And one of our policies with Grayson Natural Foods is if we have to talk bad about our competition to make our product look good, then we don't have a good product to sell. So if we would concentrate our efforts on making this sustainably raised meats more attractive instead of the other side worse, I think we could go a lot faster.
Good point.
I think you're incredibly honorable. I think you're amazingly right. But the challenge is the other side doesn't agree with you, and they're doing everything they can to spread disinformation and lies about what you do. So I think organizations like AWA and the AGA can help the consumer understand some of that disinformation. And the one thing I've always been proud is how honorable my farmers are in trying to take that middle ground. But Big Ag doesn't want to play the game by the general rules. And I think Robbie's disappeared for lunch. But if we can take a break now, guys, back in 15 minutes. Panel, thank you so much.